right, well, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. Some of you folks may know who I am, some may not. I'm Emmeline Giles. I'm the Environmental Justice Lead Organizer with Metropolitan Congregations United. And I'm so happy to be here today with all of you. And just so you all know, we have over 100 registrants for this evening. So I'm super excited as people start joining us to really have a big group conversation with everyone. We have some really amazing community leaders that are going to speak tonight, and I can't wait for you all to hear from them. But I just wanted to go over some technical things first. We have Beth Gutzler, who's also an environmental justice organizer with MCU. She's going to be our tech for most of the evening. If you have any questions, you can directly comment in the chat to her if you need. And otherwise, feel free to, use the chat box in other ways. If you want to make comments about, what you're hearing or reactions, you can use the reaction option at the bottom of your screen. There's all those. I also wanted to take the time to just take, do a land acknowledgement. I don't know if some folks may be aware of this, but it's just a moment at the beginning of some of our meetings that we really want to acknowledge the lands that we are on today, which known as St. Louis currently now, but otherwise the occupied lands of, at least if you're in St. Louis, the Osage, the Kickapoo, and I might be missing some other ones, of course. We have Cahokia, of course, across the river. And there's a really great map actually that you can look up some of the native tribes that are still around and from the past that might be on maybe where you grew up, etc. So I just put it in the chat. It's a really cool resource. Okay, so if you're just coming in, we're asking folks to introduce yourself, your name, your pronoun, organization, or congregation, and why you are joining us this evening. And we've got, if you can go to our next slide, Beth, for me, I can walk everybody through some of our Zoom protocols. So y'all know this, we've been on Zoom a lot this whole year. If you can, please remain muted unless asked to speak during the meeting. We will have opportunities to voice our thoughts and opinions and whatnot, so don't worry about that. We just want to maintain background noises and things, so please be mindful too when you are speaking of any background noises. And of course, if possible, we'd love to see your beautiful faces, so please try to have your video turned on for the event tonight. And then again, you can use the chat box feature to ask any questions, to make comments, to show support. And then this event will be recorded. So if you can't stay for the whole thing, which we hope you can, we can also provide you that recording. There will be a section of it that will not be recorded because we will be engaging with one another. But other than that, the other stories will be recorded. And so Beth, if you can go to the agenda for me. Thank you. So we've got a lot in store for everyone tonight. This is our agenda. Of course, Emmeline Giles again, lead environmental justice organizer of MCU, going through our welcome and intros. And if you can look through the chat box, seeing where everybody is coming from, all the organizations, our partners as well, leaders as well from other congregations. So this is super exciting. And we're going to hear from Rev Kevin Anthony on a little background and why we're here today. What is the importance of this meeting today, and a little bit of his personal story as well, why this is important work. We're going to hear from Leah Clyburn from the Sierra Club Beyond Coal campaign, national campaign, about why we organize. What does that mean? Why we organize for change in environmental justice. And then we will hear from a couple of our partners in environmental justice work here in the region. Our sister organization in the Metro East, United Congregations of Metro East. We have Kintaro and a community leader, Miss Cozy, will speak. And we've got another partner, Community First Plus, the new environmental justice organization. We'll hear from Maisha Johnson. And then we're going to introduce you all to our new interfaith environmental justice task force. Father Vince Nyman will walk you all through his own story, the work that he's been doing at his parish, and also what it means for this Environmental Justice Task Force and the work and the goals that we have. And then we're gonna all do an activity together to really engage and get to know one another and understand environmental justice issues in our own lives and our own experiences. And then we'll follow it up with, all right, what do we do now? How do we take action? What are the next steps and how do we come together and really build power as a region? And then we'll do a quick evaluation just to get all of your thoughts on what you thought about this event, how you're feeling, and where you want to go next. So I will now allow for and introduce Rev Kevin Anthony, who's our first speaker today, an amazing person that I've had the privilege to get to know this whole past year. And I'm just so excited for you all to hear from him. He's also a member of our Interfaith Environmental Justice Task Force. And Beth, you can drop the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmeline. I guess it is my turn. Good evening, everyone. And thank you again for joining us. We welcome you into this very critical and important space tonight as we reflect on the environmental justice pieces that we need to move to. As she said, I am Rev Kevin Anthony, and I serve with the Environmental Task Force of Metropolitan Congregations United, or more widely known as MCU. So I'm here to share with you why we are here, or more so, why I am here. And for me, it starts with, I'm here because I like clean. Notice I didn't say spotless. I said I like clean. And I do believe that there is a difference between the two. Nevertheless, many of you are probably aware of the opening of the biblical text, where it offers to the story about the creation, the garden, known to us as Eden. And Eden is described as this beautiful space that is plush, filled with vegetation, no trash, no debris. All is full of health. I promise you I won't preach. But when we consider our current surroundings, I believe that we all can agree that we are a long way from Eden, as it is described. And I doubt very seriously we will get back to that place. But I'm here again because I like clean. I like clean because I believe our communities, and especially communities where poor people, Black and brown communities, deserve to exist without all the paper trash, broken bottles, soda cans, automobile tires spread across open spaces. Most of us have probably been driving along, maybe Grand Avenue or Kings Highway, maybe Highway 170, and notice how people will open their windows to their vehicles and just drop trash to the ground. I can recall as a youth growing up in the Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood, or what some people know as the JBL, having to clean off the vacant lots before playing games. My friends and I would have to go out whenever we decided we wanted to play ball and clean up the bricks, the bottles, the tree limbs, and all sorts of other debris so that we could have a safe space to play. And we had to do this because people would utilize the playing space as a substitute for a dump site. I'm here because poor communities deserve the right to grow vegetation and harvest it from healthy soil. Many of you are probably aware of people are growing locally sourced food in neighborhood settings. And this sourcing is even on the rise in low-income communities. But who can afford in those communities to have the soil tested? And who in those communities are aware of the sort of building that once existed in that space where people have decided to plant. It could have been a gas station that left toxins in the soil or a home that had lead-based paint. Who knows? For every tomato and leafy green food that is planted, harvested, and consumed, those toxins are transitioned into the body, which seems to me to be a health risk. And so I like clean because home renovators, you've seen it, handyman, men from places unknown leverage poor communities as dumping grounds. And the more they dump, the more that has to be cleaned up. And at some point, it has to be demoralizing and even disheartening to continually to clean up and pick up while others consider you and your community as disposable. You like the trash are viewed as having no value. And so I'm here because there needs to be a change. The lives of so many Black and brown communities are dependent upon our voicing the inequities related to environmental racism. Poor communities deserve clean air to breathe, clean soil to grow, clean water to drink. The environmental racism must stop. And I'm here because I understand as an African American what it's like growing up in a poor community and having to clean up my neighborhood before I play or plant. I'm here because I understand what it means to be considered disposable. I'm here because people who live in poor communities may not possess the will or the energy to agitate, create agitation needed to demand a clean neighborhood. And so I'm here because I like clean. And I hope you are here because you understand what it means to be in places and spaces that need to be clean. I would like for it to be spotless, but let's start with clean. We can start there, we can go a long way. Now I will introduce to you Leah Clyburn of the Sierra Club, who will talk to you about organizing around environmental justice.
Thank you so much, Reverend. I really always appreciate hearing your voice. Very motivating at all times, and much love and respect to you and your family. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Leah Clyburn. I am the Beyond Coal organizer, senior organizer with the Sierra Club. Former organizer, but forever friend and family to MCU, and also part of Community First Plus. And, you know, we talk about why is it important to organize around this issue. And some of the main factors that we need to really wrestle with is what is the difference between environmental justice, conservation, and social justice? The fact of the matter that there's no difference. They're one and the same. They're in relationship, right? So when you're talking about social justice issues, it's a clear distinction that there are haves and have-nots, and system is not working out, right? For those who have not, but yet are under the umbrella of American, right? And so it is up to us during social justice issues to lift up that inequity around those policies and processes, right? And scream it loud and scream it proud, right? Then when we talk about conservation, and then we say, oh, we need to have this park, we need to have preserve this land and do this and do that, right? And build policies to support these lands. But what environmental justice does is says that, oh, we have these policies to support this land, but why is that? Because it's located in this area, now we no longer influence those invoke those policies. And that's a problem, right? The history around environmental justice started back in the 1960s around the civil rights movement, right? And that's because during the civil rights movement, we were clear in the understanding that there is a health impact to these lax policy that's supposed to be in place to protect the environments for all people in which we live, right? And so when we look at environmental justice, we are looking at the unjust supports for environmental policies in specific areas, in general, right? And a lot of times what we found is that these lax policies is due to, corporate greed. It is due to racial inequity, right? The clarity of who lives there and the value of those who live there, right? So we find this on indigenous lands. We find this in Black and Brown communities. We find this in where we would call our farming folks, right? The salt of the earth folks. But time and time again, we are in constant fight against corporations like Ameren to hold them accountable on their illegal dumping, on their emissions, right? Because these pollutants are killing us. These pollutants are continuously part of the problem. And we, as partners of citizens who live in St. Louis, it is our obligation, in Missouri throughout, it is our obligation to say, be a better partner, right? To hold them accountable, right? There is, at the Sierra Club, one of the things that we do is we communicate this information to community partners like MCU, like UMC, like Community First Plus, and so many others, to be like, hey, check this out. This is something that's coming down. And one of the things that came up was what is this thing called the Integrative Resource Plan that our utility, Ameren, puts out every year. This plan lists out Ameren's resource plan on what kind of energy that they're going to provide for us, right? So whether it's going to be renewable, as you all might have seen that they've provided opportunity for folks to communicate if they want wind or solar, or the traditional, which is coal. And one of the things we ask for them to do is really focus on the public health aspects to their missions that comes from their plants. And so I want to share with you their statement. Let's see, yes, awesome, it did work. All right, here we go. Emily, give me a thumbs up if you see this. Okay, cool. So this right here is Ameren's response to Sierra Club's request for them to look deeper into reviewing of the effects of their use of coal. And please read this, and I'll share it for MCU to share out with y'all. But the main piece here is that Ameren expresses that it is not their responsibility. That is the regulatory agent's responsibility to demand these things from them. And so when we talk about demanding for them to do better and to be held accountable, we're talking about millions of people, not millions, I'm sorry, hundreds of people are dying from St. Louis to East St. Louis, because as you know, there's no wall that prevents smoke from traveling, right? But people from St. Louis to East St. Louis and all the way to Chicago are being affected health-wise because of the emissions, because of the particles that is drifting from Labadie coal plant, which is one of the largest ones in the nation. That is putting out these emittents and harming folks' upper respiratory. And so this is a problem. And this is why we must organize, because the health of our children, the health of our children's children, the health of our water and our land and our air that we all breathe is being affected. And so I want to encourage, when Reverend Anthony was talking about, being good stewards and our, the importance, as you all know, of walking by faith, right? As faithful people, it is our responsibility to be good stewards of this land. And we are our neighbor's keeper. So if our neighbor's choking that lives over in South County, guess what? We're going to be choking just a little bit further over in East St. Louis, and we're going to continue to choke over in Illinois. And so there's nowhere to run, right? So the bucks has to stop here with us. So I'd like to now transition to how our neighbors over in East St. Louis are actually doing this work, to our dear friend Kentaro with UMC.
Thanks so much, Leah. And thanks everybody for being here tonight. I'm really excited to share some good news, but also some tough to hear news as well. So once again, my name's Kentaro Kumanomido. I am filling a new role for United Congregations of Metro East, and that is as a digital and environmental justice community organizer. UCM is involved in a lot of different campaigns and projects. Two of our other organizers are actually on the call tonight, Marie Franklin, who works on transformational criminal justice reform, as well as Josue Martinez Herrera, our Latinx community organizer working on civil rights for immigrants. And my work as an environmental justice community organizer, I really see as being intersectional, like Leah said, the fact that we have lead in the drinking water of the schools in East St. Louis affects their education. This is educational justice. The fact that Veolia waste incinerator that you can see on the map, which I didn't know about until my role with UCM, I'd never driven past down Highway 3 in Sauget, just south of East St. Louis, existed. And so on the call tonight, we have with us Miss Mamie Cozy, who lives very close to Veolia. You can see on this slide, I'm actually living in South St. Louis. Miss Cozy is in the south end of East St. Louis, but we are in each other's self-interest, to use an organizing term. We are both affected by the harmful pollutants that are released at the Veolia incinerator. The good news that I wanted to mention is that recently UCM was part of an action on Earth Day that helped move forward a piece of legislation in the Illinois House and went on to the Senate that would ban the incineration of a very toxic class of chemicals called PFAS. So that's one of our ongoing issues. And if Mamie El Cozy could introduce herself, she is up next, and she's on the line from East St. Louis.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I am delighted to be here tonight. I apologize. I had some technical problems and not being able to get on my line, but I'm here and I'm excited that I am here to share with you my story regarding the Veolia plant. Again, my name is Mamie Cozy. I'm a great grandmother raising 3 great grandchildren. I'm 80 years of age. Thanks be to God. I'm a retired school teacher. And I would like to just say that there is so much toxic air in my community that I feel that something has to be done about the emitting of the toxicness in the air. There are older people who live in my community, and there are other children who live in my community that I am concerned about. My greatest fear is for my great-grandchildren who is inhaling these harmful, toxic air. I feel that it's affecting their health, my health, and all the people around in this area. I live about 1.5 miles from the Veolia plant, and almost constantly on a daily basis, our air is not healthy. And so I like to say that something must be done about this community. We are people of low income, people of color, and the days that the air is not very, very good, my children can't even go out to play as other children in other communities. They sometimes run back into the house to let me know that they're emitting these odors, sometimes a chemical smell, and it get in their throat and it burns. And so I have to say to them, you can't go out today. You must stay in. To me, that is very unfair that young children can even go out in their own yard and enjoy clean air. Nobody should have to live this way, no matter who you are. My youngest child, who has developed asthma since we moved in this area, being treated for it. And sometimes when he go out and we're getting ready to leave, and he says, Granny, we need to cover our mouth. And even in this pandemic, before we had to wear masks, sometimes we had to take a cloth and put it across our mouth, run, get in the car, and get away. It really bothers me that my oldest child, she have had several episodes of something that seems like seizures, but when I took her to Cardinal Glennon Hospital, they said that it wasn't seizure. So we have not found out really what causes that. But even now she's developing anxiety. She's taking medication because she's fearful of going outside. And so it is my greatest desire that my children could live better. We would move if I could afford it. I'm 80. Where can I buy another house at this age? It angers me that my children can't ride a bike and go out and shoot ball or go in the field and play soccer. On any given day, they have to choose which day they can go out and play. Veolia spent over $450,000 for lobbyists, when in fact they could have spent at least $50,000 for monitoring. Is something wrong with that picture? In my opinion, there is no consideration for this community, no consideration for the people that live in this community. And there has to be something. The very people that are supposed to protect us, the EPA, just dismissed our conversation and sided with Veolia. They should be held accountable for this. I thank you all for this opportunity to share this story, and we will continue this fight until we can get better, clean air in this community for all the residents here in the Metro East area. Thank you for this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cozy, for making it on the call tonight. I think everyone really, I'll just speak for myself. Yes, every time I hear your story, I feel deeply moved. And you, for me, are a champion for everyone in this region when it comes to environmental justice. So I just want to continue to lift you and your voice up as we move forward. Up next, I would love to introduce Maisha Johnson, who's actually a neighbor of mine. And Maisha is with Community First Plus and is going to share with us another layer of the air pollution issue, kind of bridging the indoor and outdoor air pollution that many of us are experiencing here in this region. Take it away, Maisha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maisha Johnson, and I'm one of the co-directors with Community First Plus. Community First Plus was formed in early January of 2021. So with Community First Plus, we've realized how the intersection of environmental justice and housing justice are one. A lot of what shows up outside, the air pollution and the debris from the trash, ends up in our home and affects our home. So with starting with the air pollution, when I moved here in 2009, I moved into the Marine Villa area where we noticed there was a loud gas ditch. And after having several conversations with other individuals in the community, I also realized that there were a lot of illnesses within the community, cancer, high rates of asthma. Most of the ER visits in this community are asthma related. So that made me look more into other issues that the community may be facing, because, this can't be it. There's so much more when it starts to affect several families in one community. So in the process of doing neighborhood cleanups with other community leaders and organizers, we've realized that there is a big issue with the dumping in the community, and that needed to be addressed. With the dumping, we've learned that there were supposed to be 2 waste visits in the community where they pick the waste up, and 1 recycling. Well, due to the fact that there's not enough men to work the man hours that is required to service all the alleys in St. Louis, Missouri, that they limited down to 1 waste pickup and 1 recycling pickup. And that leads to overflow in the dumpsters due to the fact that there's a lot of families that pile up in one household. Also leads to a lot of pests in the home, rats, mice, and landlords tend to hold the renters accountable to address these issues. We are not the cause. We need to change the narrative of it's the way that person's living. It's they're not keeping up with their housing. They don't keep it clean outside. They're not the cause. It could be the foundation. It could be the surroundings, as we continue to speak about, that affect the in-house air quality and pest infestations. We as community have been organizing with neighborhood cleanups, with meeting with one another, but we also need you as faith-based organizers to step in and help deliver the message that we are not the cause. And also help community leaders and organizers learn to develop the skill in holding their power and addressing these issues with with city leaders, with folks that can change policy. And what does that look like? It's needed. So many people in St. Louis have had early deaths in their family due to the lack of air monitoring in these Black and Brown communities, lack of resources, and lack of knowledge. So today I asked, where would you take part in educating and handing over power to community members that's willing to organize around this? Thank you. And I believe Emmeline will share my information if you like to contact Community First Plus with any questions or, any resources that you can hand over to us so we can deliver to community. And I appreciate this space. And I will now pass it on to Father Vince Nyman, and he would speak more about what communities continue to face around St. Louis and Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, Maisha. That was a wonderful reflection there. And I also want to just say thank you to Mamie for her profound witness. And it's deeply heart-wrenching when you hear that. And I know from living in the city of St. Louis that there are many experiences like that. And I also want to just say quickly to Reverend Kevin Anthony and also Leah that I definitely agree and support what you're saying. As a white person, I have not always been aware of that term, environmental racism. And I've been mentioning it to a lot of white people. They've never heard that. So we have to get the word out. My name is Father Vince Nyman, and I'm the pastor of Our Lady of the Holy Cross Church in Baden, in the North City of St. Louis. I've served here for about 7 or 8 years. In my few little moments here, I just want to maybe share a couple personal stories, and then also to talk about a little bit about the parish, the ministries that we have that are related to environmental justice and in other areas regarding public health. And then lastly, just to say a word or two about this wonderful environmental task force that has assembled here relatively recent, and I'm very honored to be part of this wonderful organization. And I hope that our listeners will just don't walk away from these experiences. Please get involved in some way. I know you may not know how or what or which, but just participate, and this mission will find you, trust me. First, a personal story or two in this regards. My upbringing, I grew up in Rancho Cordova, California, which is a suburb of Sacramento. And when we moved from Michigan, actually I was 5 years old, and we had a few fruit trees in the backyard, and that's a whole nother story I could go on and on about those experiences, those wonderful experiences that all children, every children should have these kind of experiences. But one in particular regarding my father, there was one young peach tree, and there was just one peach. And every day my dad would come home from work. He was a mailman, and my mother got to stay home because that was enough money back then for one mailman to support 7 children. Of course, for them to buy anything, they had to save up money for 6 months just to buy anything, but they could still support us. But anyway, every day my dad would come home, and there was a peach on the tree, and he would test it. He'd put his hand on it to feel it, to see if it was ripe. Did you know that most of the children that I understand the neighborhood that I'm in have never even tasted a pear, never even held a pear, to say much less about other human experiences that should be everyone's joy, are being depleted in front of us. And anyway, then finally the peach ripened, and my dad said, okay, great. And I waited and waited. It seemed like for eternity, but then he said, no, we're not going to eat that. He said, that's for your mom. That's for your mom. And fast forward a few years. And when I was 18, my mother had cancer. And my mother, she seemed to be alive and well and thriving, but it's happening more and more. People are dying of cancer and heart disease and diabetes and asthma and heart disease and on and on. But she's only, not even 50 years, well, yeah, about 50 years old at this time. And she had the operation, the tumor removed, and she came back, she's sitting on the couch and I'm sitting there, and she said, the doctor told me I have 1 week to live. And I had a very serious situation a couple years prior where I was deathly sick. It was kind of an accident. Someone accidentally poisoned a pizza. They didn't mean it, but we started to get into nutrition because the doctors really didn't know what to do. So now when my mother had the cancer and we thought, well, what do we eat? Maybe there's something healthy you could eat. And so I said, well, how about, Mom, if I just go out and get some dandelion leaves? So I went out, we had a few acres. And so I pulled these dandelion leaves and we shared a dinner together, her and I. And well, she lived 3 more years off of the healthy diet. And she had to learn a lot, and she needed also to get a lot of help from competent people who could address a situation from a more holistic way. The doctor said, there's nothing we can do. You're to be dead in 1 week. Well, I know that my mother is just one of many. Now, people think, oh, cancer killed your mother. No, cancer did not kill my mother. The environmental toxicity that happened, that is what killed my mother. And that's what's killing a lot of your relatives and loved ones. So many across this country and around the world. And nobody is saying a word. And with Mamie there, I mean, how would you discount what Mamie is saying? Corporate world, the big people of influence are saying nothing. And the only logical explanation I can give is not a scientific explanation. It's a money problem. It's a big money problem. And it does hurt me. It does make me angry. But one thing I do like about this group, and I'll go on now, is we're saying enough. And I love this group because we're so constructive in planning out a strategy that will allow more voices to be heard. I want to say a few things here. Yeah, quickly here, the parish here, a lot of these ministries that we have formed more in the line of restorative justice ministries, and basically the shorthand term for that would be, we're not just stopping the bleeding, we're trying to really give people their freedom or help empower people to empower themselves. Beth, for instance, is doing some wonderful work with reconciliation circles, peacemaking circles. Strongly encourage our viewers to get in touch with Beth and get involved in these circles. It's a wonderful method of listening and sharing, and you will be rewarded with this. Now, this is a garden that the Missouri Botanical Gardens helped us to build. They helped us design the garden. Those are all indigenous plants. Now initially, I must say that there's a learning curve. I did not come with any particular agenda when I came to the parish here. And I looked down in the valley in the lower part of the church property, and I saw this dead tree there. You could see we named her Sophia. I was just out with a little team. We help a little basketball team of 3rd grade girls, and they were out there running around, practicing, getting ready for their basketball warm-ups. In fact, their name is the Midwest Missouri Futures. Have you ever heard that name, the Futures, before? I just love that. I said, have you ever named a tree before? And they said, no, we never have. Well, that's Sophia. Make sure you run around a circle around Sophia. But there's such a joy to come out and look at the plants, and then watch the insects and the wide variety of birds. Last summer, some of the bald-headed eagles were doing acrobatics right over this wonderful garden. Of course, we also have a natural prairie, and we also have an orchard. But just getting in touch with the natural world there's a healing aspect to that, not only emotionally, but in terms of the spiritual healing, that they know that there's a connection with appreciation of the natural wonders of the world and empathy. They know scientifically, they know that, and spiritually, we here at the MCU, we all know that. We're all nodding our head. There's just something about the wonder and the the miracle of life that is around us. And unfortunately, it's being taken away from us. It's being polluted. And what God had given us to heal us is now not able to heal us because of the mass pollution. We common people must all together become a voice. We must be a voice of the truth of human nature and of the nature that is all around us. Then back to the parish things. Now we have a transitional home for abandoned women. Now they can come out here and experience some of the healing qualities of nature, just being out there, just getting away, finding a space. And of course, we're just starting a Montessori group for premature, not premature, but preschool children ages 3 to 6. And nature can help. I mean, they've done studies on this. The experience of nature can help cognitive development in children. So if we're just surrounded by cement, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder on the kids, and it just adds up, one hard thing after the next. There's other things I'd love to talk about there. Anyone is anytime invited to come out and to experience some of the beauty of that. And I just want to lastly say a little bit about this wonderful interfaith task force that we have at MCU. So wonderful to work together, we're a diverse group here. And I must say, when you have a common mission that is so vastly important, and different groups coming together, we have different perspectives. We come at it from different directions, and so that's some of the beauty of the MCU. We will, though, focus on oppressed communities, because people especially in the city, are just going to be more exposed to toxic issues at just a higher level inside their homes regarding lead and the air. And when children are exposed to lead poisoning, it's irreversible. It's irreversible. It's over. And so children have an acute issue with dealing with these sorts of toxic issues. So real focus on the youth, real focus on communities vulnerable to exploitation. And also just the networking, the collaboration that's involved. One of the beauties of my particular ministry is, when you're in need so much, you have to reach out. You can't go at such a huge problem alone. We need one another. We need a lot of people. And we'd be surprised how many people really want to help, but just don't know how or where to start. MCU is a great place to begin. And lastly, just working together, working toward these goals. There's so many different aspects to it, so many different ways to approach these situations. I'll kind of leave that there. And now I thought we have some more very important speakers here. So I want to introduce a wonderful person that I've gotten to meet just here in the last couple months. I'm so glad to meet her, and as well as the others. Her name is Sister Dolores Sanchez. She is a member of the religious community, Roman Catholic community, called the Franciscan Sisters of the Earth. That's kind of a unique name. Franciscan, related to St. Francis. That's not unique. Everybody kind of knows what that's about. He's got the statue of the bird on his shoulder. But Dolores, I don't know what you got on your shoulder. Maybe it's an eagle, maybe it's a parrot. I'm not sure. But I just want to now, our anchor, or one of our great anchors here, Sister Dolores, you want to take it from there?
Thank you, Father Vince. Again, appreciate all you being here. And wow, we have heard some powerful stories. And we have heard some powerful people who are working towards environmental justice. But all of this, is certain, I certainly believe that there's got to be a lot of feelings out there. So just want you to, if you would, in the chat, to put down some of the feelings you might have, or if somebody, is willing to share right now, if you could just raise your hand, physically raise your hand, or in the, from the reactions at the bottom of the screen there. And just tell us how you're feeling about some of what you're hearing. Somebody like to, and maybe the other hosts could help me watch the screens to see who might be interested in sharing something right now.
I see Joshua is distraught.
Okay. So I'm seeing some determination, some anger. Lisa, if you don't mind my asking, you said troubled but determined. What are you thinking about there with the determination and with the troubled part?
Dolores, this is David Girth. I'm on with Lisa, my spouse, and I typed that, and she said, "Well, you got to answer that." No, I mean, I really appreciate the testimonies because they're grounded in the reality and the pain and the illness, and we're moving forward. We're going ahead. We're going to take that experience and use it to strengthen our commitment.
All right, thank you so much. Tony, you say, how do I take this back to my church? We'll be talking a little bit more about next steps, and we could certainly help you with that, any one of us. I see, okay, there was something in the chat that I was seeing about, somebody was talking about lead in the schools, lead in the, okay, so that was Barbara Johnson. So you could see that she's saying that there was lead in the schools back over the 25 years she worked in the St. Louis City schools and Riverview Garden schools, and it's still an issue. So we must not give up. That's some more determination there. So again, we have a lot of feelings, a lot of probably a lot of need to share. So we're going to give you that opportunity now. We don't want you to not have that opportunity to share and of what's going on in you. So Beth, yes, thank you. So our activity we're going to go into now is some breakout rooms. And we are going to have the chance to share just in a small group. It'll be about 10 minutes long. We'll be with just 3 of us in a room. You only have the 10 minutes, so if each of you could take 2 to 3 minutes at the most to talk about the questions that Beth is going to put up here now. What are 1 or 2 environmental justice issues that you're most concerned about? We all have different experiences to share about that. And why is that a concern to you? What does it mean to you personally? And again, during that time, we're going to ask you to pay attention to your feelings, because the feelings, I believe, are a gift from God to help us, move us to do what we need to do. We know that sometimes we can have a fight or flight or freeze reaction, but the anger or the sadness or the gratitude, even for what I might have, can move us to work and do things for others. So again, Beth, that third question about paying attention to what you're feeling. And if you have a little trouble with that, sometimes we have trouble maybe expressing how we feel. We've got a few little emojis here to clue you in. It helps me out. You can be glad, sad, mad, or scared, or maybe a combination of several of those or all of them. So we're going to, Emmeline is going to send you into your rooms. You're going to travel in cyberspace. And so you should hopefully be able to just hang in there, and all of a sudden you'll be in a room with 3 people. And she'll also bring you back, but before she brings you back, she'll send you a 1-minute warning so you know that you've got a minute to wrap up, and then you'll automatically come back to this main room. So we'll send you off now, and the questions I believe are in the chat, or I'm going to ask Beth to put them in the chat, and hopefully they will continue to be there as you go to your rooms, but basically what they're listed here. So Emmeline, if you would work your magic.
Do you want to ask if everyone has questions before I send them out?
Okay, and anybody have a question? Looks like we're good. And actually,
Okay.
they can ask questions from the breakout room as well.
Yes, ma'am. All righty. Happy connecting. Hey, Becca. I see
Hi.
you.
Hi, Emily.
Welcome back, everyone. So
It's
crazy
always
to
so
see.
aggressive when it kicks you back out. You're just like, it's just like being like picked up and moved.
Yeah, I feel like we just got zapped. We just got zapped. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you let that?
Bye. Yeah.
How do you let that cyberspace travel? Huh?
Man, I miss the getting up and having to travel through and the long time it takes for facilitators to like, when they coming back?
Warp speed, Mr. Sulu.
Exactly. Well, welcome back, everybody. We're glad to have you back. I know I was in a room, and I imagine you had as interesting conversations as we did. And so again, we want to go back to, now having been able to share, what are you feeling in response to what you heard? So we could get some of that put in the chat, please.
Or you can unmute yourself and speak up.
Yes, that's right. You can unmute yourself and speak up. How was that experience of being in the rooms? Anybody want to? All right, so we've got inspired, empowering.
All right, this is Mamie Cozy, and I would like to say that
Sure.
Mr. Bill, he was very sympathetic towards my expression, and usually sometimes people, I didn't think he felt sorry for me, but he was sympathetic towards me and my family, and I thank him.
Well, it's just like overwhelming problems.
Empathy.
It's so overwhelming, Mamie. That's sorry you have to go through all that.
Yes, thank you so much.
So I see people are feeling hopeful, empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to speak up to share?
There were 3 young ladies in the group that I was in, and first I was so amazed how far ahead of the game they are than when I was, in my, I suppose, young 20s, and they're using terms that I mean I have just recently been exposed to, and I was really left very, very encouraged that they were here. They spent time here, and they shared some wonderful their feelings and some wonderful things that were important to them. So I want to thank them. I didn't really have time to say thank you, but because we got swatted like a fly at the very end. But okay.
All right. So I know that there were a lot of wonderful things talked about. So I would ask you to help us be aware of some of the areas that were important to you in the area of environmental justice. So if you could put that in the chat, please, then we will certainly save that. What area, if we could just take a minute or two to put that in, what area are you most concerned about? We don't have time to tell the stories, but at least if you could just put in the chat that kind of the broad area that you have some concern about. We've got air and food, structures, food deserts. Yeah.
It's being an educator, I just think that trauma among the young people today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's sort of a part we don't necessarily think about right away.
Yeah. The pandemic has brought a lot on the children. I know my kids they're just traumatized with school at home.
Yeah.
It's been a lot.
A lot of challenges, and somebody had reflected that earlier in their response in the chat. There's a lot to do.
Yes, it is a lot of work.
But it's tremendous to see. I think that we've had about 75 people on the call tonight, and that's wonderful to see.
Wonderful.
A lot of people who care and who want to learn more. All right, so I see industrial pollution along the riverfront, climate disaster, future flooding in the south part of St. Louis City, trash.
Yes.
The systems that create these inequalities. So we've got to certainly do have a lot to work on, and I hear also the hope in what some of you are saying, that we can do some things, and we're going to actually give you an opportunity to learn about how to do that, what you can do in some concrete ways. So I'm going to pass this on to Kentaro and Beth Gutzler from Beth is from our fellow organizer in environmental justice, and Kentaro again with United Congregations in the Metro East.
Thanks, Sister Dolores. So yeah, Beth and I are here to kind of go over what you can do. I thank you all for sticking on the call. I realize that we're all here past 8, and so thank you for being here. Beth is going to talk us through specifically how you can stay up to date with all of our activities.
Thank you so much. So one of the major things that we want to do is just stay informed. This is only the beginning. This is like almost like a launch of the work that's going to be done by this group, I believe, and everybody that has a passion and an understanding for the injustices that are going on. So MCU's newsletter and the social media type campaigns from both MCU and UCM are great opportunities for you to stay in touch with what's coming up next. So our websites have been dropped in the chat earlier, but they're here as well. And then there's also going to be the opportunity to say, well, I'm not really sure where to start. So if you are at the point to where you want to take a next step, there's going to be an opportunity through Metropolitan Congregations called the Power Academy, where we're going to take people where they are in that moment and walk them through a process that'll allow you to get to the point where you are confident, you are aligned with why you're in this work, and allow you to think about the next steps for yourself and how to organize your teams. So there's a link that will be dropped now or in the future for this Power Academy. That's May 21st, Friday, first part session. And then Saturday is the part 1, session 2. And this is a great resource that we're going to have. So there's lots of opportunities around training.
And Beth, correct me if I'm wrong. Your trainings are totally free. These upcoming
Yes.
ones. Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
This is great opportunity for we wanted to share.
And I'll also mention that so both UCM and MCU are actually part of the Gamaliel Network, which is a national network. UCM is part of the Gamaliel of Illinois and Iowa. And there's also an opportunity to receive training that our organizers provide in our monthly trainings that happen on the second Monday of every month. So our next one is on May 10th, the evening of Monday, May 10th, and it's going to be on building teams. The link is in the chat to register for that. You'll get a Zoom invite, and then the next will be in June on running effective meetings. So these are just, the amazing skills that help us build our power, help us organize our communities and amplify our voices so that we can, have as much influence as the money of the big corporations. I just want to swing back around and make sure that you know that on both of our websites, there's a possibility to sign up for a newsletter. So if you're not already on our respective newsletters, please use the links in the chat to sign up on our site. And lastly, I want to throw out there kind of just like a big picture for what can this summer be. I know we're coming out of quarantine. There's a lot of hesitation. We're still waiting for herd immunity. But once hopefully, we get there and feel comfortable gathering in public again, I think it's going to be a really powerful opportunity. We've learned so much through this last intense period. And I think people are ready to really change things. And I'm so inspired by everyone that's on the call, sticking on this call. There's so much power here. You're as an individual, and then think of everyone that you're connected to. And so we need to organize. I'll put my info in the chat soon after this, but you can see here, date to be confirmed, but we're thinking Saturday, July 4th, a major bi-state collaborative action for intersectional environmental justice on the McKinley Bridge. We're going to target air. We all breathe the same air. We're going to target water. We all drink the same water. Energy. We rely on the same utility company, Ameren. We are so connected, and we cannot let the fact that we're in two different states and all the legal headache that creates stand in our way. We have to be willing to think hard and work together and coordinate and be organized to get the policies that we need passed. If you're excited to work on any of the Illinois legislation, there's plenty of things I can let you know about, projects that we have that we're trying to get passed in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure there's similar ones in Missouri. But again, united, we are so much stronger. So we're coming up on the end of our meeting. I want to give some space just for some open-ended questions at this point. Any of the speakers thus far would be happy to field for you before we go into an evaluation. So Beth and I are here to answer any questions that you might have at the moment.
Yeah, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you'd like to come off mute, we've got a few minutes set aside here before we do an evaluation. And just to clarify, we're actually hoping July 24th, not July 4th. July 24th is a Saturday we'd like everybody to hold. All right, so it looks like we have been clear. Hopefully this means that our meeting has allowed for you to not only hear, but experience and also know with some clarity where you personally would like to take that next step. So we'd like to hear from you again, though, what your thoughts are around evaluation. So I'm gonna hand this over to Ken Denson, one of our EJ task force members with MCU. And he's gonna give us one more time some space to reflect on this meeting tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Benson. I'm a climate justice activist pretty much all the time, and extraordinarily happy to be involved with MCU and on this environmental justice task force. So to close things out, we just kind of want again to hear from you about what you've heard and such. So the first things, if there's any kind of thoughts you have about particular presentations that you heard along the way, if you want to, that's a little bit more, but you want to kind of throw those things in the chat. Again, if there's anyone that would like to come off mute, you can do that. So that's kind of our first thing. Just anything around the things that you heard, or perhaps even didn't hear. So that'd be kind of our first set of focus. And don't want to stack things too much, but the other thing is, like, after what you have heard, are you feeling any kind of tensions that have kind of, that you kind of are noticing or feeling, as you've kind of been exposed to these issues? That's another thing that we can have. So I'm just kind of seeing here things we've got. Okay, we've still got our feeling things too. I see empowered, connected. Let's see. Okay, good personal presentations. Okay. Some speaking. Jane is feeling energized, connected.
I felt
I like the stories.
Hang on just a second. Go ahead. Who was?
Sorry.
That's right. Go ahead, and then we'll have whoever else was done. Just as soon as she's done, go ahead.
I felt a little stressed at first because I couldn't get on, but I was so delighted to be able to share the story in spite of what happened.
Great, great. Was there someone else that wanted to share something?
I just said I was impressed by the stories, and I was kind of, I don't know if I'd say upset by, what was it, Clive, what was, anyway, yeah. when she talked with Ameren, and they were kind of, well, that we're not regulatory people. We don't have to, that's not our gift or our business.
Right, we're not human, sorry. Great, yes, that's very, that's a powerful reaction. Let's see, so let's see, what events have we got here? A little much of the injustice in the past. The future must be grabbed on hope and change that what is happening. Great, inspiring presentations, very motivating, cool. And so just kind of the last things, what kind of learnings are you taking away from this, and perhaps learnings towards what you might want to do politically or other kind of action wise. So again, just kind of any other things about kind of learning that you have that you're kind of seeing as kind of maybe shaping your immediate future, kind of things like that that you would.
I'd like to share that. I'm energized, but now I know that I need to be connected and committed. And this was good because I heard from many people, and I see many people are connected and networking already. So I'm going to hook back on with Sierra Club and MCU and my little community of faith, and to start moving on. I can lean into the rest of you, and I'll keep on moving. So thank you so much for tonight.
Great, that's fabulous, Jane. Thank you. Anyone else? We still got a few more minutes, presumably. Anyone else? And keep going in the chat. Again, if anyone else wants to come off mute on any of the things that we kind of threw out there for you. Wanting to organize with others, build power, join forces.
I see Carla's hand is up.
Now, I will, I'm the convener for Compassionate St. Louis, which is the county, city, and across the river region. And I will bring this up at our meeting on the 10th of May and make everybody who's at the coordinating circle aware of what's going on in this whole area, because there is nothing that escapes compassion, nothing. Anything that has to do with the upbuilding of people and to have a quality of life is under the heading of compassion, the Charter for Compassion. And I'm going to suggest that if anybody here has never read that charter, to go online immediately when you have time and just type in Charter for Compassion. It's 4 short paragraphs, and it is spreading across the world through a series of cities signing on to that charter in order to transform attitudes in their entire region. We are one of about a dozen United States cities that are already in process, but there are over 450 across the globe. And so you can look at our website, Compassionate STL, compassionate-STL.org, and you'll see what we're up to.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing, Carla. And not to be too political, but compassion was something that was distinctly missing for the last, say, several years, and that trend seems to be continuing. So that's really fabulous. That literally see what you're seeing, and then literally fight back at it. So thanks so much for sharing. Anyone else have anything? Let's see. Okay, there's contacts in the chat. Any last things before we turn it back over for having them close us out? Great. Thanks so much to all of you for sharing your wisdom and your reactions.
Thank you.
All right, so to close it out today, I just want to take this moment before we all log off to say this is not something that we can wait on. I really want to stress the sense of urgency. I mean, right before this event, one of the major news headlines was about a chemical fire that was going on in Afton. That is not only affecting our air on the Illinois side, it's going to affect the air on the Missouri side. So it's a prime example of the work that we're trying to set a foundation for. The chemicals are going to leak into the water, and MSD has already been alerted. They've already said their statement out. The Red Cross is there. There's an evacuation that was being done. Schools were not being able to dismiss. I mean, this is an environmental emergency that's occurring right in this moment. So I just want to close out today. Thank everyone for coming. Stay connected and use the power of the story.